The Mariners are off to Anaheim as we await news on Ty France's injury. We'll get you set for the series, talk some draft, and more on today's episode of Locked On Mariners. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Friday, June 24th, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am your host, Ty Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patnode. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com. For Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, CANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/control the zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. So as I mentioned in the cold open, we're going to be talking about the Angels Mariners series, which is going to get set underway tonight. We're also going to be talking a little bit more about the draft because that is fast approaching. We're about 3 weeks out from the draft now. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about Robbie Ray. And real quick, though, we might end up talking about Ty France a little bit here because there's a possibility that we might get more clarification on what's going on with his arm injury. So that might happen during the show, might not happen. We'll see. But let's get into Robbie Ray here because he had a pretty interesting start yesterday in Oakland. He, of course, went 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run, struck out 6, walked 2. And interestingly enough, we've been talking about how much he's been using this 2-seam fastball, this sinker, for the last few starts and how well it's worked for him. I just wrote an article on Inside the Mariners about how well it's worked for him. But yesterday he went slider heavy. He threw 38 pitches. And then threw the 4-seam fastball, the second most, with 23 pitches. Then the sinker, the 2-seam fastball, came in at 21 pitches. But then at the bottom here on the player breakdowns of Baseball Savant, he threw a curveball 12 times. Now, Colby, if I'm not mistaken, he really hasn't thrown that pitch since he was with the Diamondbacks all the way back, this is going back to like 2015, 2016, 2017 when he was throwing this pitch with any sort of regularity. And now it's kind of cropped up just as this 2-seam fastball has kind of cropped up out of nowhere in June. Do you think this is actually something that he's trying to implement? Is this, more just he's kind of toying around with stuff, knowing that he's going up against a bad offense? What do you think is going on here with this curveball?
I think it's just about kind of, stat padding is the right terminology here, but I think it's just about showing something to scouts and on tape, so to speak, to put in the back of hitters' minds. The curveball, he's thrown some good ones this year. He just doesn't throw it often, and some of them aren't very good. So it's a pitch that maybe can help him steal a strike in an 0-0 count, or 2-0. He can flip it in there and steal a strike when they're sitting fastball. So it's just another pitch to put in the back of the mind of the hitters. But unless he's going to start throwing it, for multiple starts here, if you're an offense going up against Robbie Ray, you should just disregard the pitch until he proves that he's willing to do it and throw it over and over and throw it for strikes. So I think it's just more of like, hey, I'm just going to flip this up here. It's a good day to work on some stuff. It's a good way to try and steal a strike here and there, change the eye levels a little bit. The fastball and slider are tunneled pretty well. The curveball is going to be a little bit different. So I think it's just a pitch that he used to keep guys off of the fastballs a little bit yesterday. I think it's just a tempo changer more or less. But it was interesting to see how yesterday he was mostly 4-seam slider, his bread and butter. He still threw the 2-seam plenty, that it was noticeable, but he really went back to the 4-seam slider after his last 2 starts where he was pretty 2-seam heavy. So, it's an interesting, like blip in the radar, but until we see anything with more regularity, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's just that. It's a blip in the radar.
Mm-hmm. So he generated 6 swings with it. There was 1 whiff and then 4 called strikes. So it was a pretty effective pitch for him. And like you said, we'll see if it's actually something that's going to become a more featured part of his repertoire. But for now, it is kind of interesting that he didn't throw the sinker, the two-seam fastball as much in this game, because since June 6th, when he first introduced the pitch, when he reintroduced the pitch, that's been his most used pitch up to this point. 141 pitches of the sinker to 126 sliders and 101 four-seam fastballs. Do you think that's just kind of a matchup thing more than anything?
Yes. Also, it's tough because Oakland is such a bad offense.
Yeah.
And even the Anaheim start, it was basically Mike Trout and a bunch of scrubs. So, yeah, it's a little tough to know, how he's going to go in there and attack on a game by game basis. But maybe that's the actual design, the actual intent of Robbie Ray is, for the last 3, 4, 5 years, he's basically been fastball slider with very little to offer. And now he's throwing in the two-seamer. This last start, he starts flipping in some curveballs. Maybe it's just about every couple of starts, just kind of making a tweak, making a change here and there to be less predictable overall. But whatever it is, I mean, it's working. The guy allowed 2 earned runs in his last 20 innings pitched. Also 20 strikeouts and just 4 walks. He's been very, very good his last 3 times out. And Robbie, he had a stretch there where it was going bad, but for the most part, it appears that he's figured out how to work around the one bad inning thing I don't want to say used to, it still might, but the one bad inning thing that kind of plagued him through most of the month of May. He's avoided that and really hasn't gotten all that close to it. Like I said, over his last 20 innings pitch, he's allowed 10 hits and 2 walks. So there's not been a ton of traffic. Only 1 game with like an absurd strikeout amount too. So those are still kind of down a little bit overall for what we know Robbie Ray to be. But the results have been very, very good the last 3 times out. And if he's going to strike out a few less guys, but he's going to continue to go 6, 7 innings, give up 1, 2 runs, it doesn't matter how many strikeouts he gets.
Well, and most importantly there, no home runs allowed over his last 20 innings of work, 23 innings of work if you want to go back to the Astros start as well. And then 50% ground ball rate. That's really important because, I mean, the thing that a lot of people forget here is that when he was with Arizona, he was kind of a ground ball heavy pitcher. He was above league average in ground ball rate from 2015 to 2017. And so keeping the ball on the ground is going to be especially important for him when you consider his home run struggles. And his home run struggles have lasted throughout his entire career. This isn't something new for him either. Like even going back to that same time period, the 2015 to 2017, he was above league average in home run to fly ball rate. He was 13% in that. So
his home run to fly ball rate right now would be the second lowest in his career at 13.7. So yeah, it's, when you throw hard and you don't have great command, you're going to leave pitches in the middle of the plate and you're going to strike guys out on pitches like that, but you're also going to give up hard contact. And Robbie Ray's always been a guy who gives up a lot of hard contact, and obviously hard contact in the air typically equals bad things. So if Robbie Ray's not going to get, be God tier on the strikeouts, then he needs to get better at the ground ball rate, and he is. So.
All right, well, we're going to be looking at the draft again. That's coming up in about 3 weeks here, so we're going to ramp up our coverage of that a little bit more here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. But first, a reminder: this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as them with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as set setting style, and Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft their perfect engagement ring, and each ring will be a one of a kind. Looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing? Well, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. So make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Mariners listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. And this podcast exclusive includes engagement jewelry as well. Use promo code Locked On, that's LOCKEDON, plus every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. This episode of Locked On Mariners is also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every day. Let's get into the draft here, because that's coming up pretty quick. Colby, you got a couple more names that you want to talk about, so the floor is yours.
No, I'm good. Yeah, we focused a lot recently on the bats in this class. And there's a reason for that. It's not a particularly good draft class, at least for college pitching. Even some of the bigger names have some major issues, like Kumar Rocker, who didn't sign last year because of a bad shoulder issue. And there's also some concerns surrounding Rocker about control and command and the slider and conditioning. There are some issues here with Kumar Rocker, and he's probably one of the 6 or 7 best arms in this class. So yeah, there are some legitimate reasons for concern, not only on Rocker, but on getting a college pitcher at this point of the draft that you're going to be terribly excited about. But the Mariners are, I think if they're good at anything, they're good at identifying college pitching and who they can help. And there are a few guys out there that could help. I don't see them drafting a prep arm. It's the one place they've never gone before, at least not in the first round. It just seems unlikely. There's a lot of risk with a prep arm, and their ETA is usually 5-6 years away, with a few exceptions. So when it comes to college arms, things get a little bit tricky. All these guys have a bit more leverage than they used to because they have an extra year of eligibility because of the COVID season. So you're going to have to pay these guys. It's very unlikely that you're going to get any of these guys for under slot. So if you're hoping the Mariners try a little slot bonus manipulation to maybe get a first round talent in the second round or something like that, it's probably not going to be with these guys. So we'll start at the top. One of my personal favorites here, Gabriel Hughes of Gonzaga, 6'4", 220, mid 90s fastball, really good slider. Changeup is average to fringe average. Throws strikes, doesn't have amazing command, but he will fill up the strike zone. It's like I said, it's probably 45, 50 great command on the off speed, maybe 50 on the fastball. So he is a guy he's going to go in the first round. He's going to go right around, because of the weak pitching class, it's possible he jumps into the top 15. I have a hard time seeing him jump into the top 10, but it's fastball, slider, changeup, average control, maybe average command right around there. But he's good arm, like I said, he's 6'4", good size, good build, pretty good athlete, 94 to 97. And the slider is the pitch that if it becomes plus, he could be a, high end number 3, low end number 2. If the slider is average, then he might only be a number 4. But it's a profile that you like, and it's one that the Mariners are pretty familiar with. Maybe Justin Campbell we've talked about, 6'7", fastball, extension, very Logan Gilbert-esque, just in terms of size and value out of the fastball. And honestly, strike throwing ability and where the off speed stuff is, Campbell is a very easy comp to draw to Logan Gilbert. And we know how well Logan Gilbert worked out or is working out right now for the Mariners. Two names that I'm pretty interested in. I don't know what round they're going to go. I think they're going to go late first. So I think both of these guys should be available. Jonathan Cannon, he's a right-handed pitcher from Georgia. He was actually, getting serious draft buzz last year. Didn't get drafted, kind of announced he was going back to school. But Cannon, here's why I'm kind of interested in Jonathan Cannon. 6'6", only 213, so there is room to add some strength there. But he started throwing a cutter this year, and we know how the Mariners feel about cutters, and he's got a good one. It's his best pitch, but he throws a ton of strikes. It's probably above average command plus control. Fastball in the low 90s, but he has touched 96, and it is heavy. It gets a lot of sink, gets a lot of run. So you kind of have this like running fastball and then a cutter that moves in opposite directions. Both of them should be above average pitches. And then the slider and the changeup are kind of, they're fringe average, but he's a big guy, throws a lot of strikes. There's extra velocity in the arm if you can get to it. And the cutter is already a above average major league pitch. Very high floor, if that's what you're interested in. And then one more guy, since we found somebody who's kind of similar to Logan Gilbert, I was thinking maybe we could find somebody a little George Kirby-ish. Thomas Harrington from Campbell. Stuff-wise, it's nothing electric. It's a good fastball. It's a good slider. The changeup probably his best pitch. Some will say it's the slider, but they're both probably about 55s. He throws a ton of strikes. He's 6'2", 185. He can get bigger, he can get stronger, but it's still a pretty good frame. It's a very easy delivery. He throws a ton of strikes. There's really no concern that he's going to have issue finding the strike zone. He's draft eligible sophomore, so you might have to go a little bit over slot to get him to sign. But 2021, that's probably the ceiling for him in any draft year, because kind of like George Kirby, I don't think a lot of people are going to look at this guy and say, oh, well, he's a potential number two. But the stuff in the strike zone and the domination of the strike zone, he's going to be very interesting to the Mariners. And I think there are some George Kirby parallels there. So I don't think Thomas Harrington is going to get drafted by the Mariners. I think that they probably, this is just a gut feeling, I think they probably prefer Justin Campbell if they were going to go pitcher. But I would watch Harrington. He's certainly, has a lot more upside than I think people are realizing.
Well, it seems like he fits in well with the philosophy too, right? So that would make a lot of sense. Is it possible that maybe he goes before they pick, or is what kind of range are we thinking on Harrington?
On Harrington?
Yeah.
See, this is the time of year where we're starting to hear like specific teams being linked to specific players. Yeah. Whereas in the past, it's been more about like, hey, well, this is probably about the range he should go in, and this is a guy who X team has liked in the past. If to me, my understanding of Thomas Harrington's value on draft boards is that he's probably going to go, and keep in mind how big at the draft, how big the circle is. He's going to go somewhere in the top if he is willing to sign. He's going to go somewhere in the top 40. It might be closer to the low 30s, so 31, 32, 33. But 21 is not a stretch for him in any case, and I think he might be. I have a hard time imagining he goes significantly above the Mariners. Like I don't think he's a top 10 guy, unless somebody really wants to try and save money, which is also a factor that you have to take into account here. But
I think he's money with him.
I don't think so because he's a sophomore.
But
it's definitely possible. And honestly, there's a chance, an outside chance that maybe Harrington says I'll only sign for $2.6 million, and that would take him to the bottom of the first round. Maybe Seattle says we'll give you 2.8, and Harrington becomes their pick at 54 5, I want to say. Possible. Not likely at all, but possible. I think it's more likely that Harrington would fall to the Mariners in the second than it is that a team would take Harrington in the top 10, unless they're saving money.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The Major League Draft is difficult that way. Major League Baseball Draft, because the bonus pools throw everything through a loop.
Oh, it's an incredibly convoluted and complicated system that, it's no wonder why a lot of casual fans just don't pay attention to it whatsoever.
It's hard.
And that's why we're talking about it on here, to kind of help pull that curtain away a little bit and just kind of simplify it for you guys as much as possible. But it is a pretty convoluted system. We're going to be talking about the Mariners' upcoming series with the Angels in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by LinkedIn. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. And LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring, so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. And did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So the last time the Mariners faced this Angels team, did not go great. And it was not that long ago either. But now they're going down to Anaheim for the first time this season, and it's on a weekend. And Colby, you know how I feel about Sunday afternoon games in Anaheim.
Sure.
So a lot of nervous energy here after the Mariners got a much needed sweep over the A's, and they're probably, if I had to bet, they're going to be heading into the series without Ty France in any of these games, even if France is able to make it back relatively quick. So this is a tall task for the Mariners, to say the least. They're also not going to have Robbie Ray in this series since he pitched yesterday. So not a lot of things leaning Mariners heading into the series, though. One good thing is they're not going to see Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher. So that's good, at least. But hey, this is also a team that got shut out by the Angels. What was it? 2 times, 3 times? I don't even know. It was a lot that they got shut out by this team last week, and against guys that are not named Ohtani either. So yeah, we'll see how that goes for the Mariners. But now that they've gotten the sweep, they are guaranteed to be 500 exiting this road trip, and we talked about it on what was it, Tuesday's episode, I believe, that they, history suggests that they needed to at least go 500 on this road trip to stay relevant in the postseason race whatsoever, to at least keep their postseason hopes alive in some fashion. So now that we've established that, I mean, how many games do you think they need to come out of this series with before they head back home?
They got to find a way to win it. It's unfortunate that you're in that situation, but you are. And again, unless the team, at least the team is, they got the sweep, right? Which, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how, but they did. All right. Thank you very much, AJ Puck. But they got the sweep, so it's not a disaster if they win 1 of 2. They go 4-2. They stay on their winning percentage that they need. But again, unless you believe that they're going to split the series with the Padres, and then take 3 of 4 from the Blue Jays, you can't really afford to lose series. So you have to win this series, unless you pull a 7, 8, 9 game winning streak out of your back pocket, which, let's be honest, not happening. So they got to find a way to win 2 of these games, especially when you're not facing Ohtani. Sandoval was very good against you last time. You get to face him again. Lorenzen was not good. You have to take advantage of that. I guess the unfortunate thing is that Robbie Ray will not be starting in this series, but Logan Gilbert is. So
Mm.
there you go. And let's make this easy on Scott Service. Can Mike Trout give his team the lead or tie the game with one swing of a bat? Then do not pitch to him. How about that? Let's just keep it nice and simple. And
would you Barry Bonds him
like
at this point?
Like intentionally walk him with the bases loaded?
Yeah. Would you Barry Bonds him at this point?
Yeah, probably. Because here's like, I know people are like, oh, well, what would you rather face Shohei Ohtani? Yes. 1,000,000 times yes.
Yeah.
Like that's not even like, that's the dumbest counter argument I've ever heard. Would you rather? You mean the guy who doesn't hit me at all? Like,
yeah, that's the thing with
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, that's the thing with Ohtani, right? Like, no denying that he's an incredible baseball player. One of the greatest baseball players in today's game. One of the greatest baseball players probably to ever live.
Yeah.
But against the Mariners, he's been just kind of mid, honestly. Like, he's just kind of average.
Also, by the way, we need to stop pretending that Shohei Ohtani has been like Shohei Ohtani's been very good. Don't get me wrong. But last year, remember the incredible first half he had at the plate? And then he was kind of mediocre the same guy for a full year now and was good. It is not Mike Trout. So your counter argument of the whole, not yours, but like, would you rather face Ohtani than not really? Yes. 100% yes. And I know Ohtani could do damage against me. He will. But the answer is yes. It's not close. Like Ohtani has just been
unequivocally
over his last 365 days. Yeah, it's like no brainer. Over his last 365 days, Shohei Ohtani sitting 255, 365, 524. Guy than Mike Trout. It's not close. So if that's your counter argument when I complain this week and that's Mike Trout, just save it. Just because it doesn't carry any water with me. And the Mariners will not have Ohtani Dominator, Justice Sheffield on their roster. So
yeah,
we'll see.
It is unfortunate.
We'll see how that goes. But the answer is
clearly Ryan Barucki is the answer. He is the new Ohtani killer. Clearly. Because of handedness, by the way, Colby. Scott Service's favorite thing.
Yes. 100% yes. The only thing that matters is that he can throw a baseball towards home plate left-handed. Doesn't matter how good it is. By the way, in case you guys are wondering, and I know you are, Shohei Ohtani has played the Mariners he has the second most career games played in his career is against the Seattle Mariners, right?
Yeah.
The Mariners have held him to a 209, 315, 443 slash line. Which is still pretty good.
Really good.
Like, think of the Mariners added a bat that was hitting 209, 315, 443. We'd all be like, all right, yeah. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's bad. But do I need to pull up Mike Trout's numbers against the Mariners to compare? Do I? I don't think I do. So let's
that man has 33 home runs in 88 games at T-Mobile Park. 88 games. He's like 15th all time in that park's history. Like, he's ahead of like prominent Mariners figures. Like, on that
think of the games that Mike Trout has missed. Last year he missed basically the entire season. I don't know if he played more than 3 games at T-Mobile, and he's still like Mike Trout at T-Mobile might be the best player I've ever seen.
I mean, shoot, dude. Like
specifically, and I mean Trout might be anyways, but
yeah,
it's different, man. At T-Mobile, it's different. But we'll see. You know, I obviously, you know what, like, you don't need to walk Trout in the first inning. That's not what I'm saying, but there are obvious times, and we all saw it, where it's like, hey, we're only down 2-0, and we have 2 outs here in the 7th. So Mike Trout's up. What do? Walk him. I'd score 3. You might. Not scoring 4. So walk him. It's incredibly simple. A button for punishment. Mike in his career against the Mariners in just over 71 games. So just barely over a full season. 50 home runs, 130 RBI, 325, 428, 680. The dude is literally Barry
It
Bonds.
hurts. It hurts. It hurts.
So
It hurts.
don't pitch to him after the 5th inning. Period. Unless to not be
Yeah.
fine, whatever.
I'll co-sign that. I'll co-sign that. And with that, that's going to do it for our show. The internet is also letting us know that it is time to wrap up. We're experiencing some technical difficulties again, because of course. But thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every day. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Peace.